Well, hello, everyone. Good to see you out there. We appreciate you joining. I think we're still going to just kind of take a minute here and make sure everybody gets on. So as we know, though, we get a lot of folks that register for these because they like to get the recordings. So we understand that. We want to give a couple seconds here. All right. We all know how our days get. We all have a few minutes. Don't think we'll go as long today. I'm not the one talking, so that'll help. It won't go for 4 hours. Just kidding. Everybody knows me well enough. Well, anyway, I guess we'll get started. There we go. We had a few more people join in already. So that's what I figured would happen. But all right. Well, I want to thank everyone for being here today. Really appreciate you taking the time. And so I don't want to spend too much time out here waiting. So today we're going to talk about from metals to meaning, how cremation recycling can benefit your business. And today's going to be a little bit different, right? And one just more of an informal. Another one is, right, we don't have as many on this webinar as normal, which is okay. And the point for that is you probably will have more interest in cremation recycling, or you have a retort or want it just generally on here because you want to know more about it, which is what led us to this, right? It's really one of the reasons I wanted to have Taylor and Don on and wanted to host them, because as we kind of got talking, and I've known them for a while, we see each other quite a bit actually, and just listen to them talking, I thought, I want to know more, and I know there's a lot of folks out there that want to know more. I've been in the profession 29 going on 30 years, and there's things that I'm learning from them because I haven't managed or had a retort, under my responsibility, and we're just not going to go there. It's been probably 20 some odd years. So with that, right, I'm not as involved in it. So I learned a lot. So I thought it'd be nice to share that. But at the same time, what we want to do is just be personal, ask questions, jump on that chat. We've got Mandy here with us as well. Mandy is going to help me try to watch the chat. If you have a technology question, that would be the Q&A. Otherwise, tries to use the chat as much as possible. And then with that, I appreciate everything, but let's go ahead. I'm going to turn it over to Don and Taylor from Garfield Refining, and I'll let Taylor probably go first, have him introduce himself, and then we'll go to Don. So hello, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Brent. Yeah, we greatly appreciate the opportunity and the introduction. It's great to be a part of, one of your webinars with Dead Ringers. I know that you guys do quite a lot of them, so it's nice to be a part of it. Brent is a great guy, and I've known him for, some time now. Brent just went over kind of his experience in the industry, about 30 plus years. I would categorize myself as maybe a toddler in the industry. I've been in the industry, in the death care industry for a little over 5 years, in the cremation space. I've been with the company with Garfield Refining for a little over 7 years. I've been in sales and customer service, pretty much my whole career since 2011. I know the very important piece of, partnerships and, building great relationships with people in this industry. And those are my, favorite things that I like about this industry in particular. A little bit personally, sometimes I like to dive into it a little bit because, webinars can be a little bit stuffy, but I like to talk a little bit, maybe just to give a little brief background of like personally who I am. I am a dad of 2 kids. I have a 4-year-old daughter who's a sassy little wild one, and then a 2-year-old son, and then I have another one on the way. My wife and I actually and family have recently moved. I still say recently. It's been just under 2 years. Have had the opportunity to move to Fort Myers, Florida. I grew up in the Philadelphia region my entire life, and I moved down this way to be a little bit closer to family. And I'll turn it over to Don.
Yeah, thanks, Brent. Thanks, Taylor. And I've been in the industry for a good while. I started out in the landscape world and ended my career in landscaping with Davey Tree, and retired from them about 3 years ago, and decided to do a little consulting, and this industry just dragged me back in, so I can't leave. And I'm happy about that. I have made a lot of friends through the last 25, 30 years. And it's something that I really enjoy working and helping people. And Garfield happened to talk to me and said, hey, we'd like you to come on board and help us in a consulting capacity. And it's worked out really well. But I knew nothing about refining. I knew nothing about recycling with precious metals from cremations at all. So for me, it's been a 2-year learning experience. And I think I'll probably come with a little bit different perspective on that. and same thing with Brent. Neither one of us really had a good background in it, but I've learned really fast, and he's picked up quite a bit just from our conversations. So appreciate this opportunity to talk. And any questions? That I think the key here is we're just trying to gather information of what we can help people with and how to understand the business and what drives the business for different people and what doesn't. And we're finding out a lot of good information. We've had a real good opportunity to interview people and talk to people and find out what the needs are and what people are thinking. And with cremation now hovering right around 70% of all internments, I think it's definitely going to stay, and it's definitely a business that we know is going to have a future. So, Brent, again, thank you so much for allowing us to talk. And I think that I'm going to be the newbie here, but Taylor is pretty experienced, and I think he'll be able to answer almost all the questions, and I'll give a different perspective. So we'll leave it up to there. There you go, Brent. It's all in your hands now. Now you can yak.
No, I appreciate it. That's perfect. And guys, that's for those of you out there. I say, guys, everyone that's out there. This is why we wanted to have the conversation, do more of a conversation. It really does. It's just different perspectives. So let's just start there, right? So could you kind of walk me through the process, or I say us, what is that cremation recycling process?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'll kind of dive in a little bit about the background and kind of how this evolved over time. So many years ago, actually not that many years ago, about 15, 20 years ago, a lot of places, didn't recognize and realize what they could do with, these post-cremation metals. People were wondering, what do I do with them? A lot of places used to bury them. Some places still do bury them. And then other places, they didn't have any idea what to do with them, and they just disposed of them with like regular trash. But as years evolved, refiners like Garfield Refining have helped out crematories for the last 15 plus years. We've actually had some very early kind of adapters that have recycled with us, over 15 years ago. But this has kind of evolved, has been kind of a long time evolving. We partner with crematories across the United States and in Canada. We refine precious metals. That's what Garfield does. We are a precious metal refinery. So what we do with crematories is, we help to educate crematories on what types of metal that they can refine and recycle. So crematories will collect their, any kind of post-cremation metal, which might include hips, knees, joints, any kind of surgical medical implants, as long as also pacemakers. That's a big thing. We actually recycle all of our pacemakers through the University of Michigan. It's a great program that they have there. They refurbish these pacemakers and put them back into third world countries. It's a pretty cool program. And then also the most important and valuable metal that you're going to find in post-cremation metals is going to be your dental metals. They are small, fine, precious metal alloys. And so we do, what we can to partner with crematories to help educate them and help them, better sort and find some of these small metals, just because it is, a tedious task. It can be challenging to find the precious metals, especially dependent upon the size of your crematory. Some of the bigger crematories nowadays, have some really great, procedures that they utilize, and big equipment like metal separating processors and all sorts of stuff. They have it down really well. Some of the other smaller locations, that's when me and my team, we come on board and we help you out with, recovery methods. And for us, it's all about, a partnership. So I don't know if Don, if you want to add anything that I might have missed there.
No, I think you got it. I think, partnership is a big thing. And that's something that I know that Garfield stresses a lot, is trying to work together with the crematory operator and either ownership or management of the crematory or the funeral home or whatever facility might be handling it. So I think that that's a big thing. And that's one of the things that attracted me to working with Garfield, is that it's a partnership. It's not just, trying to take and do and this and that, but it's working with them on how to make things better. So I think that's the word right there, partnership.
Yeah, and what we do, we'll send out the crematories, they'll collect the metals on site. And then we're always there for any kind of questions that they might have. They'll collect the metals in one of our collection drums or a collection drum of whoever their current refiner is. And then, it comes with everything that you need to ship back. And then once it gets and arrives to Philadelphia, that's when, the real recycling and refining process begins. That's when our experts, they'll sort through all the small stuff, all the precious metals, and then they will melt it at our facility. And then we will send a breakdown with the amount of precious metals that we're able to recover from the dental metals, along with, the hips, the knees, the joints, all the implants. And then that process is typically 24 to 48 hours.
All right. So I have a question then, because I learned this. So I want to ask everybody else knows too. When we say a drum, how big is this drum?
So we have two different sizes. One's like a 6-gallon, kind of like a Home Depot drum. And the other one's going to be a 10-gallon drum. So come up about a little over your knee height. Yeah.
Because when I hear drum, right, first thing to me is it's going to be a 50, one of those 50-gallon big drums. I'm like, how long is it going to take somebody to fill one of those up, right? Depending on the volume. But anyway, I just,
believe it or not, Brent, we do run across people that do have those.
Oh, I'm sure. And I know my days in the past. I've seen those drums sitting in corners. I don't even know if they were recycling. They probably back then were just putting stuff off to the side somewhere. I don't know what the process was at the time, right? Well, now I'm going back away. I'm going back to my casket days back. That was a while back. So anyway, no. So you mentioned something too that I'd like to know about. So, okay. So we've got the cremation. We're all used to having a processor, but I've heard you guys mention something about there's different types of processing to really separate and get the right metals. Am I on the right path? I know there's different separators, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a number of different cremation equipment suppliers out in the industry. So everybody kind of has, a little bit of their own kind of processor of sorts. So processors were something that all crematories had from the beginning days, something to help with the cremated remains. But, I would say probably over the last 10 years or so, most cremation equipment providers have created their own metal separating processor, which actually helps with the process where it sorts out those precious metals on a little filtration screen that's inside of the machine. So they're super helpful, super, efficient, and it saves a lot of time and energy for the crematory operators for sure.
Yeah. So the suggestion would be to, if you don't have one, for someone to find the best, because you're going to catch more, correct? Is that the most efficient? You're also keeping the metal out of the cremated remains, I guess.
Yeah, you're keeping nice, clean cremated remains for sure. Absolutely. And yes, it does do a really great job of capturing metals. And we've seen some very significant increases with a lot of crematories that we have outfitted with these machines.
Gotcha.
Brent, it's just like anything else. As things progress, things get perfected, right? So it's just that this is more of it's getting perfected, it's getting better, it's getting cleaner, less dust. It's just the process is becoming more scientific. So it's just it's a really, who knows where it's going to be in another 10 years, right? So it's just going to be amazing what's going to happen because it's not going anywhere.
No, right. So you guys lead me to another one that's fun. We know we're going to get more, but we also know that the metals are changing, right? So how's that affecting? Like the metals are changing, meaning most of us don't have gold in our mouths, right? But the metals are changing a little. How's that affecting it, as well as knowing we're having cremation grow? And I'm assuming that's going to make a difference in the recycling, the refining.
It's something that we're always kind of keeping a close eye on. Garfield, actually, so we are a precious metal refinery, like I said, and we have many different business lines. So we work with jewelry, pawn shops, dental offices, dentists, dental labs, private individuals, you name it. Anybody that has precious metals will refine it. One of the biggest kind of areas that we've seen it impacted first initially was our dental labs. I think the number is like 98% of dental labs nowadays do not use precious metals anymore. So we have seen it, definitely affect some of the precious metal alloys on the dental side of things. I think, the next one that's kind of following that path is the cremation space. But, there is still a lot of dental gold, including
Yeah.
dental palladium as well, you know, in some of this collection for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely something that is, you know, I think we still have a long time coming, but you know,
Yeah.
it's definitely changing for sure.
That's fair. Well, and I think everything we're doing is changing, right? I remember when I got into pre-need, 29, 30 years ago, and I was told now's the time. Going to pre-need all the baby boomers. Well, I think we're still pre-needing them as we go, right? So we get it. Now, does anyone out there have any questions? Feel free to jump in chat at any time. We're trying to keep it conversation style. I'm not fully trying to direct it in one direction. Just make sure we get everything possible because there's still more I'm learning as we go. But so I'm going to ask another question while we're waiting over here to see if one comes out. But I've kind of heard it. You've mentioned it a couple times. I've heard you mention owners as well as operators, or like CEOs and operators. What is there gaps there? What I mean by that is myself could be working for someone today and not really even know that we do recycling or who we recycle with. So I was just curious how those gaps work and if those gaps existed.
Taylor, let me answer that first because to me it was a shock, to be honest with you. You know, as I was going out into the field and talking to people that I know, and interviewing them and just finding out, just doing some research, I found out that a lot of people didn't even know who they were using for their recycling or refining. And it's just surprised me. And I think part of it is because it's not really a profit center. It's more of a give back. And we can talk about that. Most people, and I don't even know what the percentage is, so I don't want to guess on it, but most people donate the money back into the community, which is phenomenal. That was another thing that I didn't really know or understand either, is that they look at this as a give back to the community, which is phenomenal. Because recycling to me is very dear and near to my heart just because of the landscape and repurposing wood and all these kind of things as well. I think, you know, we have a limited supply of minerals and limited supply of natural resources. We need to think about recycling. So it was a shock to me that so many people did not know who they might be using. And I think there's people just got complacent about it and said, okay, well, you know, the crematory operator is handling it. And he's doing a great job and we're doing well. We're giving a lot back in the community, which is really good. But there's definitely some compliance issues. And I'll let Taylor get a little bit more into that. But as I've learned about this, there's definitely things that you have to do to make sure it's being done correctly. So management or ownership or whoever it might be needs to understand what's being done. And when you don't do that, that's where I think that there's a possibility of getting yourselves into some sort of pickle of oh, I didn't know that, you know, or that wasn't done. I thought that's the way it was done. I think just understanding that, and we've seen some miscommunication between management and the crematory operator, because we'll talk to the management, they'll say, oh no, we're not doing that, we're doing this, and they'll go back and forth. So I think that was one of the biggest shocks that I had, that and the burying of the material. And again, it's getting less and less, but I think that was the protocol before, was they didn't know what to do with it, so they were burying it, which is, you know, okay, you know, that was what they did at that time, but now there's an opportunity here. So I think that that's something that management needs to be aware of. And I think I'll let Taylor kind of talk a little bit more about the compliance issues that go along with that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that we've talked about in previous webinars. You know, there definitely is a big kind of communication gap between, you know, owners of businesses and the operators. And I don't think it's something, like Don said, I don't think it's something that they purposely do. I think it's just something that, you know, cremation recycling is kind of, you know, it's not the number one priority by any means. But it is super important for you to understand and know who your recycling or your refining partner is. You know, there's a number of different, you know, very important pieces that go with it. And, you know, the owner of a business, they should know, you know, for one, you know, one of the biggest things is like, you know, compliance issues for sure. You know, we want to make sure that you kind of have your policies and procedures in place and making sure that all of the, you know, metals are being recycled and, you know, to a reputable refining company.
Yeah.
I think it's important to, you know, for owners and operators to get on the same page with their, like together, as, you know, to go over like goals and expectations of what they want out of their recycling program. to put their heads together to, work on policy and procedures, discuss who their refining partner is openly. And, most importantly, I think it's a good opportunity to go over the results. You don't have to go over the results with every single shipment, because especially depending on the volume, but I think it's important to at least get together with your operator, whatever it is, like, bi-monthly or biannually at a minimum, to talk about it and see what you're getting out of your refining partner.
Yeah, and that makes sense, right? As a way of letting if the operator doesn't know, let them know the good that's being done with this, and what's happening, as opposed to just do this. And I don't think anyone's doing that, but I can see that. And same thing you could see if you don't let everybody know, oh, who knows what they could be saying, right? That's part of the customer experience. So make sure we're all kind of saying the right things, not the wrong things. But so now you mentioned another one. I do have you guys see me with a little piece of paper down, because I have a list of questions I want to ask. So it's been fun. I'm gonna put them on the line a few times, right? Let's see if they can answer it. But all right, you've given me a little bit of the process. That makes sense. The pacemaker thing, by the way, super cool. That I didn't know, right? I think that's just really neat, that all the years is that I didn't know that was really being done. So it's neat. And again, being this many years in and going, I really didn't know how we recycled those. It's great to know they're being recycled and being put to use. That's a good thing, because I've known they had to come out. No question, right? And I think back to my main days of retorts, it was a pet retort. So things were quite different. It was human size, but for pets. Who would have thought Batesville was starting a pet cremation back in the early 2000s? But we did, and then we sold it. We had to shut that bad boy down. So anyway, sorry, I digress on tangents. So what do I know a little bit more about when we look for? I think of this like as a provider, and I'm not saying this to say, okay, tell me exactly why you're best or someone else, but what are some things we look for when we're trying to say, okay, I need to change providers, or I want to look at other providers, or I'm building a retort. Haven't one built. I'm gonna open a crematory. I want to know what I look for. What are some things you look for in a provider?
Yeah, definitely. Great question, Brent. I think that probably one of the top things to make sure that you're looking for is make sure that they are a precious metal refinery. Make sure they actually refine your metals, as opposed to somebody that might be called what they categorize as a recycler. A recycler typically is probably going to be taking your metals, and they are going to send it to a refiner. So you want to make sure you cut out that middleman. Because it's a lot. For one, there's a lot of hands in that pot. So you just want to make sure your metals are going directly to the refinery in there. We talked a little bit about it as, compliance and documentation. You want to protect your business from any sort of risks, and you want to make sure that you want to know where the metal's going. And we can help you out with any kind of policies and procedures. If you're wondering like what it looks like now, or what we can do to help out, we can definitely help you out. Garfield has been a refinery since day one. We've been around since 1892. So another big important piece is you want to make sure that you're working with, a reputable company that is, properly recycling and refining your metals as well.
So the difference there's refining and recycle, meaning some use the name recycle, but they do refine, but that means they actually take the metal down, right? As opposed to others could be out there just grabbing it and taking it to someone else who refines it, correct? That's kind of the difference.
Yep. Or you could just be getting like a per case dollar amount. That's when you know that that's probably not a refinery. A refinery is somebody that's actually going to pay you for the metal that, on the market on the day of the day your metals arrive at our facility is when you're going to be priced on the market rate.
Gotcha. So, okay. Now this ought to be fun. How's gold been on the market rate? Gold's gone crazy, right? In the past 18 months, maybe 2 years, but.
Yeah, gold's been on an absolute wild ride. When I started with the company 7 years ago, I wish I took all of my bonus in gold, because gold was priced at like $1,200 an ounce. Yeah. And then we just saw most recently over $5,300 an ounce. So yeah, the gold rise has been astronomical, especially in like the last 18 months, 2 years. It's been absolutely insane.
And that's something that people need to watch, right? They need to be aware of that. So if management's not really paying attention to the news, or it doesn't really mean anything or whatever, you kind of need to know, okay, things are starting to go up, So it's like you should see maybe a little bit of an increase in what you're giving back, and those kind of things. It's going to benefit the operation as well. So I think that's one of the things. And one of the things that I've seen, Brent, is these reports are very detailed. They break it down in percentages of every type of metal that comes in. So you really know exactly what's coming in as far as palladium or gold or whatever it might be. There's a percentage, and then they give you the total weight, and you go from there. So it's pretty detailed. So that's what you look for. You look for the detail, make sure that things are being done properly, and ask a question here or there. And you don't, like you said, you don't have to do it every month or every shipment or whatever, but just every once in a while, just kind of check in and say, okay, well, this time, what was the difference? You know, could be a number of cremations were down. You know, there could be differences, right? Time of the year. I mean, all sorts of things can take effect. You know, this business, it's cyclical. You know, it goes up and down. So I think those are the kind of things that just be aware of it. And when you kind of say, okay, it's being handled, you know, that makes me a little bit nervous. So.
Gotcha. Well, and I brought that up because that came to my attention of the flat rate. Just talking to folks once I started hearing more from you, you know, flat rate versus market. And some are like, well, yeah, it's changed. And some are like, well, no, it doesn't change. So it's just the difference. So I appreciate you guys kind of putting that out there, that there's two ways of looking at it.
Right.
You know, and I get it. But then, okay, so now I had someone also tell me, but they weren't able to, they were, I'm trying to think how they said it. Their gold was on hold in essence. So what was happening in the market there? Where they couldn't process the gold? I'm trying to remember what it was.
Yeah. So just, you know, to kind of throw it out there as, you know, a partner to, you know, crematories out there, you know, the gold price has gone up so much, so quickly. So things at certain refineries have experienced some kind of financial issues. There is pretty significant amount of financial stress in this industry right now. It's not uncommon for refineries to go out of business and go bankrupt. So one thing that I will just kind of throw out here now is just make sure with your next shipment, if you're sending it to your refinery, make sure that everything is a go and that they are still on time and their business as usual and they're processing your material at the same speed as they've been in the past. We have heard a lot in many of the different industries that we service that there are some, you know, delays and disruptions with shipments. Some places are actually physically telling them that, no, you cannot send any metal to us right now. Some of these businesses are insolvent. So I just, you know, going to heed the warning, just make sure that, you know, you don't want to get your metals stuck there for a couple of months or even a couple extra weeks. You know, everything with Garfield is business as usual. We're still processing in 24 to 48 hour turnaround times. So I just, you know, there are definitely some big financial stress out there in the industry. So you just want to make sure that your partner is not dealing with that right now.
Yeah, no, I can see that with the market change up and down. Yeah, see where that could go in a lot of different directions. Awesome. Group's not giving me a ton of questions out there, so I'm not going to ask a ton of them either. So we'll be good. Yeah, I was going to ask the question: do you even, if you have a recycler, do you know who it is or not? Not, you don't have to name who it is. I was just going to ask if you know who it is. But then I thought maybe I'll just be nice. This is me just talking away here again, guys. It's just a big family. This one I just like having them like this where we just learn things from you guys about it. Is there anything you think we've missed that we should make sure folks know out there? I'm trying to think. For me, I started learning, kind of got the process flow going. You know, I've discerned that it's not a 55-gallon drum because that would have been really large, but got the process. What do you guys think? There's a couple more things out there that we would need to know.
I just think that, you know, people sometimes, like I said, they get complacent or they get comfortable and they say, okay, we're just going to continue on the way we're going. I think that because the way things are changing and because it's a business that's constantly moving, you might want to test, right? And say, okay, I'm going to try another recycler or another refiner and just say, okay, I'm just going to compare. It doesn't hurt. I mean, it doesn't hurt to compare. I mean, everybody does that in every phase of every business that you do. You always look at, okay, what's the difference here? Why is this person different? Why is there 4 or 5 companies doing this? What is their difference? And how is it going to work better for me? And are there pain points, right? And, do you have a pain point? Oh, they just ship all the time, or, I can't get anybody on the phone. I mean, there might be certain things like that. So sometimes it's
Sure.
good to just disrupt it a little bit. So I think that's the thing that I hear is, oh, it's good. I don't have to worry about it. Thanks. And you're right. They don't want to worry about it, but sometimes I think you need to worry about it, or you need to think about it and try something different. I'd like to see more people experience that a little bit and say, okay, this is what we were doing. This is what we're doing now. Is it changed? And if it's not, go back to where you were. It's not going to hurt anything.
No, that's Don. That's a really good point. And yeah, with Hello Phone, right? We're having that right now. So there's folks that are, lengthy contracts on phones, and we don't know what we don't know. And then the other one is they do these renewal agreements that you have a 30-day window that if you don't say anything, you auto renew. It doesn't just end. So, but I get it. But yeah, so it makes it challenging for them when they want to just say, hey, I just want to check it out and see what else we could do. They're stuck in out. That's something for you guys too. Is there a lot of contracts in the refining and recycling, or is it more just occasional, or is it maybe because of upfront or something?
Yeah, the nice thing about, trying Garfield, we do not have contracts. So there is no, there's no commitments that you would be making with us. The only contracts that we do have is if somebody were to get a metal separating processor and we do like a lease to own deal. So if they're interested in that, that's the only time that anybody might be tied up in any sort of contract.
Okay. No, that makes sense.
Those processors are expensive. So that's one of the things that Garfield's able to do is say, okay, if you're a customer and you're committing to us, we will commit to you. And that's a great commitment. It's something that, okay, it shows the partnership. It shows that you're working together as a partner. That wouldn't happen right off. That would happen, down the road or whatever, if that was the opportunity came about. So I just think that working with a good partner, always kind of testing a little bit, those are important factors. And I'm not saying anything it's not that people don't do in any part of your business. Right. You need to always look at that. I mean, accountants or whatever, if you didn't like the way things were being done, or it's not being done the way you want it, sometimes you take a look at another accountant or another firm or whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. So I think that that's something that's important to always kind of be looking and understanding and asking questions. As like we said, and I've probably said it now 4 or 5 times, it's a changing industry. And with a changing industry, you need to ask more questions. So that's what we're here for. We're here to do that. And so, at ICCFA, we're going to be asking a lot of questions. We're hoping to interview some people and be able to get some real hard facts of where's this industry going? What do they see happening? How can we help? Those type of things.
Right.
Anyway.
Well, you let that one out of the bag. You guys were telling me about that. So you might as well let's give everybody a heads up. What are you guys doing at ICCFA at the booth?
We're going to run kind of a very short little survey. We always want to continue to learn in this industry. There's so much to learn. And ICCFA is a great place to do it. Yep. So we're just running a short little survey, and, we're still figuring out all the little details to it, but I think probably the first 25 to 40 people that we talk to, we're going to give away a little gift card just for coming over and, helping us learn a little bit more.
Yeah. No,
there's no pressure there. It's just really going to be maybe 3 to 5 questions about how they're doing the process. What would help them as far as succeed a little bit better if they are having difficulty. And, is it servicing the machines? I mean, it could be anything, right? It's like, we just want to know to be able to better educate us. And so that's what we're looking for.
Well, that's cool. Yeah. And I do know, since we talk a lot, they happen to be not too far from us either. And if you want to stop by, I believe they're right next to a bar. So they've got a good location. Isn't that correct, Taylor? You guys are next to the bar, I think?
I think we are. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I remember when we were all looking at the map. So we're not too far, but they're closer to the bar than we are. So
I think Taylor did that. He was like roping it in. So
yeah, it makes sense. I think we can see you guys down like straight shot when I look at the bar. You're over there, so that's fine. But no, and hey, for those of you that are on, I'll let you know too. We're going to be doing some new things too. So don't know what all we're doing. Some of ours are secret, but we're still looking for a name for that parrot. So we do have a mascot. So that's the fun one out there right now, right? Is we have to have fun. That's like, let's name our parrot. What should the name be? So the hint will be that it might be a stuffed parrot, might be out there. There might be a few of them. So, you can come by, run over, see them, help them out, get a gift card and run by and see our special parrot. But
There we go.
might even have some dead ringer cornhole boards coming in for this one too. We'll see.
Nice.
So, right?
Dead ringer what?
Some dead ringer cornhole boards.
Oh,
Oh yeah. They're going to be heading down to Atlanta for the university as well. They have ICCFA University has a big contest on game night, and one of them is a huge cornhole contest. And the sponsor is no longer sponsoring the boards. Actually, I don't even think they're in business, but we make sure we got some dead ringer boards because it's just funny to have dead ringer cornhole boards. So
well, I think
anyway.
ICCFA is going to be pretty awesome this year. There's a lot of new things I've heard from different people, so it's going to be definitely different than in years past.
I know you got Paul out there doing the America's Got Ashes, so that should be neat that everybody's entering what they've done, and then we'll have there's a ton of different speakers out there talking about what's worked, so that'll be neat. But all right, so this is I think we're wrapping up. I wanted to check with anyone out there. If you have any questions whatsoever, reach out, and it's okay if you don't. You never know with each group. Sometimes we get really extra chatty groups, and sometimes we don't, but I really appreciate it. And you guys, anything else you think that we need to mention that I haven't? I want to make it as educational as possible. I think you've covered most of the process. Oh, here we go. Okay, so well, that's a good point, Steve. That's a great one. Steve said, "What is the cost to use your services?" I mean, how do you guys build that?
That's a great question. So we just have a flat refining processing charge. So it's a 15% charge.
Okay, so it's the precious metal at a percentage of market less 15%. Is that what I'm hearing? Or
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's easy to calculate. It's just boom, it's done. There's no hidden anything. It's just right there. So
Gotcha. And then I'm assuming it's not up front. Then it's just built into the processing. It's here's your 400 less 15%. Okay. Yep. Steve, thank you. That was a great question. I just didn't know how I missed that one too. Now I learned more on that. So, all right. Well, if anyone else has any other questions, don't hesitate, put them out there. These guys are easy to talk to. So that's, we might've met on a golf course a couple times before. So that's where I learn a lot from them. I just need to learn how to golf like Don, and then life will be better. But
yeah, one thing that I'll point out too with the processing charge before we move too far away from it. There's a lot of places that advertise like 2%. It's just not feasible to do business at 2%. So just keep those things in mind. It's one of those things that, like, if you're in a situation where you're looking to explore a new refining partner, give them a shot. See how they stack up apples to apples and check it out.
Well, so I'm going to ask this one now because you got me curious again. I've watched it grow. Over my years, it's like refining, recycling, whatever. Now all of a sudden, I can't go anywhere without having 2 or 3 or 4, like even at a little state convention. So is it continually growing? And that's why you mentioned there were folks in and out. Is it moving a lot with providers in general, meaning growing in and out, et cetera? What's going on?
I think this year is going to be a very interesting year. And I don't know if everybody, ICCFA, you have to sign up for it pretty significantly in advance. So I'd be curious to see if anybody has kind of dropped off from it as far as a refiner goes.
Oh, really?
Just because of insolvent issues. I would imagine it's probably not going to have as much of a drop off as something like maybe later in the year might have a drop off, just because these people might have already been committed. So I think if anything, there might be a little bit of a drop off.
Okay, so it's that volatile this year.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And then, like I said, again, I've been to so many different little conventions, even little ones, and you're just like, wow, there's 2 or 3, and I've never had to really study the space, right? So good to know.
I think also too, in some of these smaller states, there's local people. They aren't even regional. They're more of just a statewide or whatever. So you might see that. As far as the national players, I think there's a certain number of that, but you're going to see some small regional or small even statewide people that just get into it. And I know even for people that do service, they only do service in a particular region, and they don't go anywhere else. So you're going to see those. I think that's what you're seeing too.
Okay. Well, and that makes sense because and this is a side note again, but I've always liked to play around with silver coins, maybe not so much gold, but silver. And I've seen a couple of the stores I used to go to, they're gone. They don't even
Yeah.
exist anymore. You know, one of them just closed literally about 2 months ago. So, and they were a good family. They've been in there for years. So I don't know specifically, but I thought it was interesting how many I've seen close. So good. All right. Well, guys, hey, I appreciate it. I think that, look, for everyone out there, the part of the relationship is they're a family run company. It's been around for 140 years. And, good. Just when you meet good folks, I'm not saying others out there aren't, just made relationships here and just thought, let's have these guys on. I want to hear more about it. Because again, I didn't know all of it. After 29 years, 30 years of being in, you think you would know everything and you don't. So I appreciate all the learning. For anyone out there that's looking for someone, hopefully this helps give you some education. We'll put the video out. It'll have live live out on our CXL, on our C Expertise platform. So anybody that's a member can watch it anytime to get some learning from it. And we'll make sure their information's out. Anyone else that registered, we'll send it out with everybody's emails. If you have any questions, reach out. If you have any questions on dead ringers, for anyone that's new to us, don't hesitate, reach out. We're all about customer experience, but we're also about educating. So it's kind of the main thing we're doing. But guys, I want to thank you and give you a final wrap up. If you have anything you'd like to say.
No, just thanks a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say thanks so much, Brent. We greatly appreciate the opportunity to do this with Dead Ringers. So thank you, and Dead Ringers for sure.
Absolutely. Well, appreciate it, guys. And we will see you, looks like in about a month. We'll all be at ICCFA. So
Sure will. It's going to be a busy month. That's for sure.
Yeah. And then it's convention season. So then it gets fun, doesn't it?
Gets crazy. All right.
All right. Well, we appreciate it, guys.
All right. Take care.
We'll talk to you later. Thank you.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Thanks. See you.
Bye.